I answered the call. We found what haunts missing teens in a Kentucky cave at 3 a.m. The phone rang with a tone that sliced through the chilling Kentucky night. It was past midnight. Any sane person would have ignored it. But not me. My heart raced as I answered. "They're back," the voice whispered, sending a shiver down my spine. "The missing kids, they found something, and it's not alive." In that moment, the weight of those words hung heavy in the air like a thick fog, crackling with electricity. Every instinct screamed to run, yet I was driven by a force I couldn't name. They say the cave is haunted, the Cane Cave, shrouded in dark folklore and misfortune. Over the years, 5 different teenagers had vanished within its shadowy depths, some of them never to be seen again. Locals whispered of ghostly figures, flickering lights, and a foreboding presence that seemed to watch from the stone walls. As I rushed to grab my flashlight, the words of my grandfather echoed in my mind, warning me about the darkness that hungers. The gravel crunched under my feet like bones as I approached the mouth of the cave, its gaping maw almost smiling in the moonlight. The air was thick, electric with expectation. Shadows danced along the rocky surface, and I felt a chill down my spine. For a fleeting moment, I hesitated, but the thought of the missing teens' friends I'd known since childhood drove me forward into the unknown. As I stepped inside, the light of my flashlight pierced the darkness, but it felt like the darkness swallowed it whole. I could hear distant echoes, whispers carrying through the tunnels. "Help me," they cried. I stumbled, chest tight, breath hitching in my throat. The walls seemed to breathe, pulsating like a living creature. Just then, I spotted something glinting ahead. My heart hammered. It was a bracelet, Jamie's bracelet, the one she always wore. Panic surged through me. What happened to her? Did she make it out? What horrors awaited in the shadowy recesses further in? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Heart pounding. I followed the narrow path deeper into the cave. Every fiber in me felt like it was on fire. I could sense something was watching, waiting. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me like a tempest. I had to move. The tunnel twisted and turned. It felt like a maze, an ancient labyrinth that wanted to keep me lost forever. Then, in the dim light, I saw them. Flickering orbs, like fireflies dancing in the air. They led me to a wider chamber, revealing twisted shadows shifting on stone. And there, beneath a heavy layer of dust, lay evidence of an unearthly encounter. My fingers grazed the petrified surface of something that shouldn't exist. What had these kids stumbled upon? Was it a portal? My mind raced. A wave of dread washed over me. The air grew colder, and in the crack of silence that followed, I heard it, a low growl, like a warning, echoing off the walls. Then, just as quickly, everything stopped. The whispers vanished, leaving a suffocating silence. My heart thundered in my ears. I turned slowly, dread creeping in. Who, or what was behind me? Was I about to uncover the truth? Or was this cave about to claim another soul? The only thing clear was I had to find out, but at what cost? The breath caught in my throat as I turned, dread clawing at my insides. The low growl morphed into a series of whispers, weaving in and out of the chilling silence, like shadows stretching across time. My flashlight flickered. The battery, or maybe something more sinister, was giving out. Hello? My voice wavered, breaking the heavy air. Yet in the depths of the cave, it felt swallowed whole. There was no answer, only that oppressive silence that wrapped around me like a shroud. I strained my ears for movement, heart pounding in time with the drumming of my anxiety. A skittering sound broke the stillness, sharp and unnatural. My body tensed as I gripped the flashlight tighter, the weak beam becoming my only lifeline. The darkness loomed heavy, pressing against my skin, a tangible entity urging me to flee. But thoughts of Jamie, of the others lost here, bolstered my resolve. I couldn't abandon them. I took a shaky step forward. Then another. The flickering orbs were still there, hovering at the edges of my vision. They glimmered like lost souls guiding me deeper into the cave's unrelenting maw. Each step felt deliberate, like I was crossing a threshold I couldn't return from. Suddenly, a flash of light erupted from within the chamber. My heart nearly stopped. It was bright, too bright, blinding. I stumbled back, feeling a wall pressing against my back as I shielded my eyes. The noise became deafening. Cries, screams, and distorted voices rattled around me, filling the air with chaos. Help! Get out! Run! Their voices intertwined with my own rising panic. The sensation of something creeping closer washed over me. It felt wrong, like a weight pressing against my chest, dragging me down. Stay together. I whispered to myself, pulling together any remnants of courage, pushing through the fear clawing at my mind. I had to see what the commotion was about. As my vision adjusted, I saw the source of the light. A figure stood beneath a natural arch made of jagged rock, its silhouette radiating an eerie glow. My heart thundered as I stepped closer. Was it a ghost? A manifestation of the cave's tragedies? Jamie? I called, my voice trembling. No answer came, but the silhouette seemed to flicker, its outline undulating. I took another step forward, and the ground shifted beneath me. The cave trembled, loose stones falling and crashing around me, like the sound of thunder. I tried to dart back, but my foot twisted in a crack, and I fell hard. Ringing filled my ears as darkness threatened to consume me, and then a rush of cold air hit my face. I gasped as I pushed myself up. In that instant, the glow surged brighter, growing so intense that I could barely look. Suddenly, it flickered once more, and then collapsed into a whirlwind of shadow. What? But I barely had time to process what I saw when the air shifted again. The whispers returned, a cacophony of desperate pleas, but now I could hear them distinctly. Don't. She can't escape. My heart sank as I realized their meaning. The ground beneath me rumbled ominously, demanding my surrender. Get out. We have to get out. I shouted into the dark, scrambling to my feet despite the shaking earth. But before I could run, the dark presence materialized, a mass of shadows coalescing into something humanoid. It loomed, larger than life, its eyes glowing like twin embers in a fading fire. Welcome, it hissed, to your fate. Just then, amidst the chaos, my flashlight flickered back to life and I could see the faces of the missing teens, their hollow eyes staring back at me, ghostly and pleading. The realization crashed over me like a freight train. I wasn't just here to find out the truth. I was next on the dark list of the cave. What could save me now? Or was I too late? The shadowy figure loomed over me, its breath like a chilling wind on my skin. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but my feet felt rooted to the cold, hard ground. The faces in the shadows shifted closer, appearing desperate, yearning for help, but were they real, or just figments of my imagination? Help us, the whispers entwined with the droning growl of the entity, creating a haunting melody that pierced my very soul. Fear clawed at my throat again. I had to move, to react, but my body betrayed me, frozen in terror. Jamie! I yelled again, desperation lacing my voice. If you can hear me, answer me. The air hung thick with silence after my words. The figure stirred, its glowing eyes narrowing. Your friend is lost. Like the others, it rasped, and the sound sent chills racing down my spine. They belong to the darkness now. No, I won't let that happen. I screamed, my voice breaking. With newfound determination, I forced my legs to carry me backward, my flashlight illuminating the distorted faces behind the shadow as they flickered like images in a broken film. Perhaps desperation could ignite hope. What if I fought back? I took a deep breath and mustered every ounce of courage I possessed. You don't own them. You can't take me. My words echoed through the chamber, but the shadow only laughed, the sound like cracking ice. The cave trembled again, a malevolent heartbeat reverberating through the rock. I could feel it in my bones, a warning, an impending catastrophe. "This is a place of despair," the dark figure retorted, advancing toward me. "You are part of the story now." I turned and ran, each footfall echoing painfully loud in the silence that followed. My flashlight flickered erratically, illuminating treacherous rocks as I stumbled through the chaos. The whispers shrieked behind me, a surge of torment that threatened to pull me back into the abyss as I raced down the narrow path. I recalled the twists and turns of the cave. I had to trust my instincts, to forge my way through the dark like a beacon of light. For Jamie, for the others. The walls closed in, but I pressed on, adrenaline spiking as I rounded yet another corner. I nearly collided with a stone wall that seemed to sprout from the rock itself, an unnatural barricade erected by a force beyond my understanding. The air felt electric, charged with the weight of countless souls trapped within this labyrinth. I pounded my fists against the barrier, fear igniting my depths. Suddenly, a glimmer caught my eye, a narrow crevice in the wall, just wide enough for me to fit through. I hesitated, torn between the creature closing in behind me and the unknown passage ahead. The whispers swelled into a crescendo, drowning me in paralyzing panic. "Don't go. You'll never come back." But then, amidst the chaos, a voice broke through, the voice of Jamie, fragmented but clear. "I'm here. Don't stop." With a final, resolute breath, I heeded her words and squeezed through the crack. The sharp rock scraped my shoulder, sending pain flaring through me, but I pressed on, determined to escape the grip of the darkness. The passage opened up again into a vast chamber, the darkness less oppressive. I stumbled into the space, gasping for breath. My eyes widened as they adjusted to the meager light emanating from crystals embedded in the walls, illuminating what seemed to be an altar, but it was marred with symbols that twisted my stomach. "Jamie!" I cried, taking a step forward. The echoes of the past rushed back, resonating in this eerie sanctum. I wasn't just an intruder. I was part of something bigger, something sinister and offering. With a pounding heart, I scanned the chamber for any sign of her. The shadows shifted, and I felt a malevolent presence from behind. Had I stumbled into a trap even deeper than before? But before I could grasp the tangle of thoughts overwhelming me, the chanting returned, louder this time, as if the air itself resonated with the cries of tormented spirits. I had to break this cycle. The ground shook violently beneath me, and I fell to my knees, gravel digging into my palms. And then, the whispers turned into shrieks of fury. "You cannot escape. Your choices are sealed." What had I awakened? And how could I possibly stop what was coming? With dread curling in my stomach, I braced myself for the unimaginable. The shadows were closing in. But could I somehow fight back? Or was I simply another lost soul destined for this endless night? A storm brewed in the darkness, and I was caught right in the center of it. The darkness pressed tightly against me, wrapping its tendrils around my body like a suffocating shroud. I could feel the weight of the shadows, palpable and heavy, as I struggled to regain my footing. Every instinct told me to run, but the ground shook beneath me, a reminder that escape was not an option now. The altar loomed ominously, its symbols pulsing with a rhythm that mirrored the chaos in my chest. They seemed to have a life of their own, dark emotions pouring out from their etched surfaces, memories of despair whispering my name. I tore my gaze away, forcing myself to focus on the surrounding walls, searching for any hint of Jamie. "Jamie!" I called out again, my voice shaky, slicing through the chilling silence. The shadows seemed to respond, writhing as if they were alive, hungry for something I couldn't understand. "Jamie!" And then I heard it, the faintest echo of her voice, like a faraway star flickering against the night. "Help me!" Panic surged inside me, hot and electric. She was close. I could feel it, like an unbroken thread pulling me toward her. I pushed to my feet, scanning the chamber for any sign of her. The walls towered, closing in, a confining prison of stone and despair. "Stay with me," I shouted, tension flooding my every word. The shadows shifted again, But this time their movement had purpose. They circled, drawing tighter around the altar, a gruesome dance that unnerved me. The chanting grew louder, vibrating through my bones. "You should be with us," a voice replied, threading through the shouts. "Join us where the lost are found." Their words hung in the air like a noose, chilling my blood. I couldn't let them pull me into their world. Inside that oppressive room, fear and determination waged an internal battle. I had a choice. I want let you take me. I want. My voice cracked, but I stood firm, fueled by the fires of resolve. I wouldn't become another lost soul. Not now. Not ever. Drawing strength from deep within, I lunged toward the altar. I needed to disrupt this dark ritual, to tear apart the bindings holding Jamie and the others captive. With a raw scream, I clawed at the surface, my hands ripping against the symbols. They felt warm, almost alive, thrumming with anger as the chanting escalated to a deafening roar. To my horror, the walls around me pulsated, echoing the energy I had unleashed. I felt the anger of those trapped in the darkness surging forward, merging into a tempest. Panic clawed at my throat as I staggered back, but I couldn't relent. I had to push through. Against all odds, a fissure cracked through the chaos, a ray of blinding light cutting through the shadows. "Jamie, push through, please," her voice urged, clearer than before. I turned toward the light, a path opening wide beneath the ancient altar. Breathing life into what had once been a dead end, I raced forward, stumbling across the uneven ground. The light flickered as tendrils of shadow lunged for me, but I refused to be ensnared. "The light!" I yelled, desperation fueling my heart. I had to reach her. "What are you waiting for?" Jamie's voice echoed once more. "I need you. We're running out of time." I leaped into the brightness, the shadows thrashing behind me in a fury, clawing at the air as I descended into the light. But as I stepped into the unknown, an ear-splitting scream erupted behind me. Had I made the right choice? Or had I just sealed both our fates? The ground beneath me trembled again, and I felt a presence surge behind me, darker and more formidable than before. Was I running into salvation or the very end of everything? I had to look back, had to see, but what would I find? The light enveloped me, overwhelming and fierce. I squeezed my eyes shut against its brightness, a strange warmth coursing through me. It was a stark contrast to the suffocating shadows I had just escaped. Terrified, I opened my eyes, half expecting to find myself back in that dark chamber, the altar's oppressive weight squeezing my lungs. But this was different. That I found myself in what seemed like a vast expanse of white, the air filled with a gentle glow that shimmered like morning dew. It felt alive, pulsating softly, inviting and strange. The sound of Jamie's voice still echoed faintly in my ears, as if calling from a distant shore. "Jamie!" I shouted again, panic tinged with hope flooding my veins. My heart raced as I scanned the brilliant surroundings, waiting for any sign of her. Each moment felt drawn out, an eternity as I stood there, isolated yet achingly aware. Then, in a blink, the environment shifted. A dark veil descended on my vision, threading itself through the edges of the light. Whispers floated in, sinister and taunting, carrying the weight of dread. "Why did you leave us?" The words curled around me like smoke. My heart sank. I grasped desperately at the fading remnants of light, feeling it slip through my fingers. I stumbled backward, the echoes of those haunting voices creeping closer, each syllable tainted with pain and betrayal. "Stay away," I gasped, grappling for some solid ground. My surroundings morphed into twisted silhouettes, spectral figures drifting in the shadows, their faces twisted in anguish. I could make out their features, missing teens, lost souls bound together by grief and despair. They reached out, their ethereal hands brushing against my skin, chilling me to the bone. "Help us," they chorused, their eyes hollow yet pleading. Their whispers resonated within me, blurring the line between the past and the present. I felt the pulse of urgency in my veins. This was no mere diversion but a call for action. "Jamie!" I cried again, desperation spiraling, pushing through the encroaching darkness. "I want to leave you behind." Still, the The specters drew closer, their expressions morphing from sorrow to rage. You can't save her. You can't save anyone. Join us. They surged forward, rushing at me like an ink-black wave that I had to fight. I had to break free. Summoning my resolve, I turned toward the light. I could feel its warmth calling me back, anchoring me to life. I took a step, then another, each footfall ringing louder against the spectral moans. Jamie! I shouted again, feeling her essence flicker somewhere beyond the veil. I pushed further into the light, just as the darkness threatened to engulf me entirely. With all my might, I wrenched myself free, bursting through the dark web grasping at my legs. The moment felt electric, crackling with power as I broke through the twisted anguish. When I staggered into the heart of the light, I spun around, breathless, backstepping into the shadows. But there was no one behind me. The anguished spirits receded, leaving a muted silence like the aftertaste of a nightmare just escaped. Jamie, my heart sank into a hollow pit. Was she truly gone? The silence that followed felt invasive, heavy, weighing on my chest. And then, as if answering my unspoken fear, a figure emerged from the periphery of the light. A silhouette took shape and my breath caught. Help me, a sound between a whisper and a plea. It wasn't tea over yet. But was it her? With each hopeful stride I took, their voices echoed from somewhere deep within, warning me, questioning my intent. Was this the end of my journey? Or had I stumbled upon something darker, something far more dangerous? What awaited me back in the light? Would I find Jamie or unleash the shadows that had been patiently waiting? The silhouette shifted, the edges of the light flickering as if it were trying to reconcile two worlds. I leaned in, my heart racing, straining to see if the figure belonged to Jamie. It felt like I was on the verge of discovery, yet uncertainty gnawed at me like the hungry darkness behind. Is that you? I whispered, my voice trembling as I reached out. The space between us shimmered, creating a disorienting dance of light and shadows that could have swallowed me whole. Please, the voice was weaker now, tinged with desperation. My fingers grazed the space where the figure stood, but just as I thought I touched her, she dissolved into mist, leaving only a pulsing ache in my heart. I stepped forward, adrenaline surging as the air thickened. Come back, I shouted, panic swirling in my gut like a storm. With each word, the whispers around me grew louder, the specters reappearing, their hollow eyes boring into my soul. No, no, I won't let you take her. Join us, they intoned again, their voices a chorus of anguish. You can't defy the shadows. You can't save her. Their words felt like razor blades against my skin, tearing apart my courage piece by piece. Enough, I screamed, breaking through their dissonance with sheer determination. I could see flashes of Jamie's face now, flickering in and out like a weakened signal. She was close, too close for me to give up. Ignoring the encroaching darkness, I followed the spectral forms. They danced erratically, pulling me to the core of the palpable tension where the air felt electric. I could see streaks of vision, flashes of moments that weren't mine, a collage of lost lives streaming by tears, screams, desperate pleas for help. Jamie! The name burst forth from my lips, raw and unfiltered. I wasn't backing down. I was diving deeper into this unknown. With each step, I started to understand I wasn't just looking for Jamie. I was unraveling a tapestry of suffering. The other spirits were trapped in a cycle, desperate to be heard, to be freed just like Jamie. They didn't want to drag me down. They wanted to take their pain and rage with them. In that moment, clarity emerged. I will help you, I shouted, my voice trembling but strong. But first, I have to find her. The spirits froze, their faces morphing from rage to confusion. I felt the tide shift beneath my feet as my determination radiated through the air, coiling around them. Look, I said, gesturing to the pulsating glow ahead. She is out there. Help me bring her back. Something in that collective moment shifted. The darkness retreated, allowing the light to pulse brighter. I could see Jamie's silhouette clearer now, her form morphing in and out of the luminescent stream. I sprinted forward, the world around me blurring as I reached out in fervent hope as I got closer. The air crackled, a sudden surge of energy exploding like fireworks, illuminating the space. I gasped as the shadows recoiled, suffocating on the light. No, the whispers erupted into chaos. You can't do this. Do you think you can change destiny? No, I didn't think I could. But I had to try. With one final burst of resolve, I dove into the light, arms wide open, desperate to embrace whatever was left of Jamie. The world around me spun as I cried out her name. Just as my fingers grazed the warm glow, a chilling scream echoed, pulling at the back of my heart. And then darkness folded in again, threading its fingers around me tighter than ever before. Help me, I heard Jamie's voice again. But this time it was laced with a haunting finality. I was back at the portal between light and shadow, the weight of the past heavier than ever. What was happening? Was I too late? As the shadows writhed around me, something crystal clear emerged from the depths of the darkness. The fight was far from over. But could I still rescue Jamie? Or had I just become part of the endless void that haunted that cave? With uncertainty whirling in my mind, I prepared to plunge into the darkness once more, chasing the flicker of hope in the shadows. The air felt thick and stifling, a shroud of despair wrapping tightly around me as I readied myself to dive back into the void. Each heartbeat echoed like a drum in the silence, a constant reminder of the urgency gnawing at my insides. I felt the heat of the light fading, the shimmer of hope dissipating as the darkness swirled hungrily around my ankles, tugging at me to turn back. Don't let her fade away, I whispered to myself, my fists clenched in determination. The shadows seemed to respond, a low growl of discontent vibrating through the ground beneath my feet. This was a warning, a threat that seeped into my bones. If I hesitated, if I faltered, Jamie would be lost forever. Swallowing hard, I steeled myself and leaped into the darkness, the chill wrapping me like ice. It hugged my skin, pulling me deeper into a chasm of sorrow. I gasped, throat tight with fear, but inside, a flicker of defiance ignited. I was done hiding. As I drifted further, the whispering voices grew louder, a maddening symphony that clawed at my mind. You can't escape. You're one of us now, they chanted, echoing around me, wrapping around my thoughts like vines. But now I knew what they were. They were the lost, the ones who hadn't found peace, victims of this endless cycle. And I would not join them. Not now. Not while Jamie remained in peril. The familiar warmth suddenly flickered back to life ahead of me. I squinted into the pitch black, adrenaline surging as I fought forward, each step a battle against the suction of despair. Jamie, can you hear me? My voice cut through the murmurings, piercing the haze. The shadows shrieked in protest. Help me please, her voice trembled in the air, curling around me like smoke. Just then, I caught sight of her, the outline almost tangible, shimmering like a mirage on the horizon. But she seemed far away, caught in a web of despair that held her captive. Hold on, I shouted, feeling the anguish of those lost souls seeping into the edges of my courage. I could feel their fear, their desperation clawing at my heart. I fought against it with every ounce of strength I had left. I'm coming for you. The shadows surged forward, a rush of cold and bitterness. I felt their icy fingers brush against my skin, whispering poison. Give up. It's easier this way. But I pushed through, propelled by the memory of her laughter, the warmth of her hand in mine. As I sprinted, the pulsing glow wrapped around me like a protective shield, growing stronger with each plea I made. You will not keep me from her, I cried out, and with every word, the light flared brighter, pushing the darkness back like a receding tide. Jamie's figure began to solidify, but so did the spirits, their faces twisted in anguish. You will pay for this, they hissed, the air crackling with tension. I saw flashes of terror in their hollow eyes, glimpses of lives never lived, dragging me into a collective mourning. Stop it, I shouted, forcing my will against them, drawing on the strength of love that had fueled my journey. I reached for Jamie, the light guiding my path, igniting hope against the chilling dread as my fingers touched the faint shimmer that marked her presence. I felt a sudden jolt, a pulse that sent both of us reeling. The darkness roared in fury, wrapping tighter around us, screaming in desperate longing. And then everything fell silent, a heavy stillness surrounded us, thick and expectant. Jamie stood inches from me, eyes wide with a mixture of relief and fear, but the breath of darkness lingered just behind her, ready to strike. "Is this it?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. "Have we finally finished this?" But as she reached for me, her face shifted, a haunting realization washing over her features. Those whispers. I looked back, and the shadows began to swarm, their cries rising in a final chorus of despair, wrapping us in their dark embrace. Then came the chilling truth. Holding on to Jamie now meant risking everything: the light, the hope, my very soul. Would I be ready to pay that price? As dread curled in the pit of my stomach, the shadows reached towards us like fingers of night, ready to drag us both back. The tension hung thick in the air, begging the question: what would happen if we couldn't break free? My heart thundered. It was time to find out. Suddenly, a surge of pressure tightened around us, as if the darkness had taken form, squeezing the breath from my lungs. I turned back to Jamie, desperation clawing through me. Her expression had frozen, a mirror of pure terror. We can't let them take us," she gasped, her hands trembling. The shadows lurked, their whispers mixing with the howls of old regrets and sorrows. "You shouldn't have come back, you belong with us," they beckoned with a siren-esque call, promising an end to our suffering. But that was a lie. "No!" I screamed, thrusting my arms forward. The light around me expanded, radiating warmth, and I felt the echoes of our memories pushing back against the darkness. "This ends now." I couldn't let them win. I couldn't lose her again. With every ounce of my strength, I pulled Jamie closer, every heartbeat synchronizing with the pulsing glow. For a brief moment, I felt the shadows hesitate, recoiling as if stung by our defiance. It was a flicker of hope amidst despair. "Hold on tight." As we gripped hands, the sensation of electricity surged through me. The darkness hissed, angry and fierce, clawing at our feet like a ravenous beast. It tried to sow seeds of doubt in my mind, conjuring images of our past failures. Would it really be worth fighting if we didn't make it out? But then I saw it, our memories in flashes, the laughter we shared, the warm sunlight brushing against our skin, moments that had held us together through our darkest days. I couldn't let those memories be consumed. "Jamie, remember the summer we caught fireflies? We can get out of here." Her brows knit together, eyes locked onto mine. "I remember," she shouted over the rising chaos, a spark lighting her gaze. It was enough. Together, we focused on that moment, letting the warm glow inside us start to burn brighter. The shadows screeched, a cacophony erupting around us, and I felt them trying to drown out our hope. "You will never escape," they shrieked, clawing at us as tendrils of darkness whipped through the air. I could practically feel them trying to sink into our minds, rooting us in fear. But I wouldn't allow it. "We are not afraid," I shouted, feeling Jamie's grip tighten. "We are stronger than you." With that, the light surged, heated by our combined desperation and determination. We were not just fighting for ourselves but for those who had lost their battles before us. I could feel an unseen force pushing against the weight of the darkness, a ripple of energy spreading through the void. Then something unexpected happened. A blinding flash illuminated the cavern, and the shadows faltered. It was a moment of raw power coursing through us as we channeled everything we had: our love, our resolve into the light. In the boiling tumult of shadows, I saw it. Glimmers of hope flickered through the dark, small figures of lost souls trapped within the grasp of despair, faces of those left behind. I could hear their whispers, soft but clear, urging us to fight, to push through the pain. "Jamie," I yelled, "we can save them. We can bring them back." My heart raced against the horror of the situation, but I felt her strength bolstering mine. Together, we opened ourselves up, willing to share the light, hoping to release the trapped souls that lingered in despair. but that opened a floodgate. The shadows roared, slashing viciously at us, desperate to reclaim their prey. "You can't let them win," Jamie cried, her eyes wide with fierce determination. In that instant, I realized what we were doing, what we were risking. This was more than just our lives. We were vowing to break a cycle, to save not just ourselves, but those that came before. And in doing so, we could very well lose everything. The tension crackled, and a choice loomed ahead of us. Would we take this final leap into the unknown? Could we hold on to each other against the tides of darkness that threatened to tear us apart? My stomach dropped. The shadows lurched closer, ready to unleash their wrath. The light flickered, and in that moment of vulnerability, I knew the question remained: were we strong enough to pay the price of salvation? Would we truly be the ones to finally break free? The air surged with anticipation, thick with uncertainty. My heart sank at the thought, but in the depths of the darkness, Jamie's fierce grip stayed steady, wrapping hope around my fear for what lay ahead. As we faced the impending storm, an urgent voice echoed in my mind: this was not merely our escape. This was a last stand against the forgotten, and we had to be ready, whatever the cost. The moment the light surged, the shadows pulled back like a tide retreating from the shore. I was overwhelmed by the intensity of our connectedness, our memories lighting up the darkness like stars scattered across a midnight canvas. But even as our warmth pushed back against the chilling void, I could feel the heaviness lurking, ready to strike again with a guttural roar that echoed through the cavern. The darkness thickened, swirling around us, trying to find a way back in. "You think you can fend us off?" The voices shrieked, anger lacing their twisted words. "You don't know the cost." Jamie's face was pale, but determination ignited her features. "We have to try," she shouted, bravely stepping forward. "They won't take us. Not again." I clenched her hand tighter, not wanting to imagine being separated again. "We can." My words were abruptly cut off as the shadows lunged forward, tendrils darting at us with hunger, as if they could smell our fear. Just like that, we were back at the precipice of despair. The air turned electric again, and I felt a rush of adrenaline. "Remember the fireflies, Jamie. Remember the magic of that moment. It's our power." It was as if her memories had infused us with life, pushing against the creeping dread. I could see her eyes glistening, brightening as she began to recall all the moments we shared, the laughter around campfires, the long talks under starlit skies. It was enough to inject hope into the dire situation. The light flared again, and for a fleeting second, the shadows recoiled, squirming as if burned. But the respite was short-lived. "You think you've found a way? We will never let you go." That S when I saw them, lunging shadows shaped like the faces I once knew. The visages of those who had succumbed to despair flitted through the darkness, anchored by regrets, their hollow eyes filled with a haunting sorrow. Each glance cut deeper than the last, stealing the breath from my lungs, shattering the hope that flickered within. "Look away," Jamie cried, her voice piercing the gloom, but it was too late. The echoes of their pain clawed into my mind. Memories of countless teens lost to these dark tendrils resonated painfully. "They can't take you. Remember who you are." Firmly, I planted my feet, determination surging to life. Who we are is not just memory, it's power. I took a step closer to the chaos, our light briefly illuminating the cave walls, intricate formations standing witness to our battle. "Let us bring them back." The darkness took form, twisting and writhing, threatening to engulf us. The souls beckoned, pleading, their whispers rising in a crescendo of agony. A gut-wrenching revelation struck me. They want us to feel their pain. They're trying to drag us down. "Yes," Jamie shouted back, conviction igniting her voice. "We can lift them up. We choose to remember the light. We choose to fight." As we summoned all our strength, I felt something shift in the air. The shadows screeched, insisting they wouldn't let go without a fight, thrashing against our light. But it was no longer just ours. A warmth began to emanate, like a growing flame fueled by our memories intertwined with those lost souls. We pushed, the light expanding, guided by our will. I closed my eyes and let the warmth wrap around me, feeling Jamie's heartbeat, I felt their pain trickling in each regret, each sorrow, but I fought it back even harder. "We hear you," I bellowed. "You're not lost." Then I saw it, a singular light breaking through the overwhelming darkness. It pulsed, stronger with each heartbeat joining the rhythm. The shadows flinched as that brilliant glow began to fill the cavern, begging us to surrender, to give in to the despair woven so tightly around us. But we stood firm together, side by side. The point of that light began to grow, revealing the path to escape, the way to rescue what had been lost. Together, we took a collective breath and hurled ourselves into the abyss, ready to dive into the fight for every soul ensnared in darkness. But as we charged forward, a terrifying thought struck me. Was the cost we were willing to pay even greater than we could fathom? Would we lose ourselves in the process? The shadows raged, and I could sense the ominous weight of reality pressing down. "Jamie, can you feel that?" I gasped, everything around us quaking. "We're in this together," she cried defiantly, but in her voice wavered a note of uncertainty that sent chills down my spine. Just then, the shadows surged forward, utterly unrelenting, crashing against our light and sending a shockwave through the cave. And I realized, as claws of darkness inched closer to grasp us, this was only the beginning. The ground trembled violently beneath them as shadows lashed out like a storm ready to devour everything in its path. I felt it deep in my bones. The darkness was fighting back, desperate to reclaim its lost. My heart raced, every beat pounding with the urgency of now. "Jamie!" I shouted, desperation fueling my voice. If the shadows were tearing us apart, I couldn't let them win. We pushed through together. Now, around us, the air crackled with tension, the eerily flickering light barely illuminating the chaos. But Jamie's fire burned bright in her eyes. "Let us do this," she shouted fiercely, gripping my hand tighter. Each of our memories flooded back in an electric rush. The laughter during summer, the warmth of shared secrets, and it all ignited within me a fire so powerful. It pushed against the darkness, spurring me forward like a ram overcoming a barrier. With a primal scream, I surged ahead, Jamie at my side, our hands intertwined like a lifeline in the storm. The shadows roared in anger, pooling and swirling violently around us. But I refused to look away from the glimmer of light ahead. "We can save them," I yelled again, every ounce of conviction pouring from my heart. The specters were blurred shapes, flickering between pain and rage. "You are not lost. You can step back into the light. We can bring you home." The shadows seemed to hesitate for a breath, as if contemplating our words. Hope flickered in the air, but with a sudden ferocity, the dark entity screeched, and the air grew thick. "You'll regret your choices," it howled, fraying the threads of cohesion around us. We pushed on, refusing to let their terror impact our focus. "Jamie," I urged, my voice breaking through the cacophony. "What if we lifted them instead of letting them take us?" She blinked at me, comprehension hollowing the fear, and her eyes brightened with determination. "Yes, we'll save them by showing them the way out." Drawing on our shared will, we conjured every glimmer of love, laughter, and warmth we had ever known. It all coalesced into a beam, piercing through the darkness. Behind us, the whispers shrieked in agony, clawing at us as they felt their hold weakening. "They will crush you," they cried desperately, but we stood tall, refusing to break. The shadows lunged again, finally threatening to overtake us entirely. I ducked just in time, feeling the whirling darkness swirl around like a cyclone, but I had Jamie. We were an unstoppable force. "Now!" I shouted, and with every ounce of strength, we thrust our combined light forward, the brilliance exploding like fireworks through the dark. The shadows shattered, dissipating into wisps of mist, unable to withstand the blazing light we wielded. "No, this isn't the end," the entity bellowed, now a fading echo, as they swirled into nothingness. Around us, ghostly figures began to materialize, faces I recognized. The missing teens, rising from the depths of the cave. "You did it," Jamie breathed, tears pooling in her eyes. The once desperate figures now looked relieved, their expressions shifting from pain to gratitude. "Thank you," they whispered in unison, the words ringing like a chime through the chamber. "We saved them," I said, awe washing over me, and I turned to Jamie, wrapping her in a tight embrace. "We really did." But then Jamie stiffened, her gaze shifting. "What about us?" she asked, alarm creeping into her expression. The light that saved the others pinched tight and dimmed around us, reminding me of the price we might have to pay. "We'll figure it out," I insisted, willing our light to expand. Together, we focused, channeling our energy toward the exit we needed. "Hold on tight," I yelled, and Jamie nodded fiercely, her faith igniting mine. With one final surge of light, we broke free, forging through the remnants of the shadows into bright, open air. Suddenly, the darkness splintered into shards behind us, collapsing like the heavy veil it had once been, but it dissolved into nothing as the light surrounded us completely. And then we were back, standing in the shimmer of the moonlit clearing outside Cane Cave. Gasping for breath, I looked around, tears rolling down my cheeks. The teens were free, finally released from their spectral prison. Relief washed over me, but so did a heavy weight. "Are we okay?" Jamie asked, glancing around as if to confirm it was real. "We made it," I reassured her, but my voice trembled with an undercurrent of disbelief. "We really did." The others slowly emerged, lingering in the moonlight like lost fireflies, glowing and radiant where shadows once loomed. They looked at us, confusion mixed with intense gratitude. But as I scanned the darkness just beyond the cave's mouth, I could sense it, the last echoes of the lost lingering just beyond reach. I could still hear their whispers, wild with unfinished stories, apologetic yet hopeful. In that moment, I knew the cost we deborn had not been in vain. We had forged something deeper, something beyond our understanding. A glimmer caught the edge of my vision, something glowing in the dirt near the cave's mouth. I rushed forward to discover Jamie's bracelet, untouched, and held it in my palm. "Look," I said softly, my heart heavy with the knowledge we had faced our greatest fears and triumphed. Together, we turned to our friends, ready to help them find peace. The mission wasn't quite over, but we were not afraid anymore. We were as strong as the bonds that kept us united, and weren't going to let the darkness consume anyone again. "Let us go home," I said, a newfound strength in my voice. They nodded, and slowly but surely, we made our way through the shadows toward the light of day, leaving Cane Cave far behind. But the echoes of adventure and sacrifice would remain with us, so remember this moment with urgency, because we made it together. And now, I need you to buckle up for what's next. You need to subscribe now to catch exclusive stories that will lock your heart in suspense. Smash that like button and help the algorithm deliver these wild tales to other truth seekers. Flood the comments. What did you think of the ending? I want to hear everything. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with 5 friends who need to experience this thrilling conclusion. Let us keep this community strong. Your support means the world to us.